So I started off in my house just sitting alone when I got hungry, so I decided to take out my old bike and pedaled all the way down to the Outback Steakhouse. I know it seems weird seeing how there's a Mexican restaurant just stone throw away, but you know what? I wanted Australian that night. So I pedaled all the way down. It was quite a ways to go, but hey, it's fine by me. So while I was there, I just I just sat there for a little bit while the waiter just took me back to seat me. When I caught a glimpse of somebody I haven't seen for a very long time, Ty the Tasmanian tiger. While the waiter walked off, I just walked away from him and I was like, "Hey, how are you?" Ty looks at me funny. He says, "Do I know you?" And I said, "Well, it's me. It's the M Crew dude. I mean, I haven't seen you for like several years." He goes, "Oh, I remember who you are now. Hey, good to see you, mate." And I said, "You as well. How have things been going?" He says, "Things are going all right, I guess. I mean, people are saying we got a new game coming out. Not sure how well that's gonna go. I mean, unfortunately, it's not for actual console release. Might be for Xbox. We don't know yet. But I'm really upset about how things are going." And I said, "Well, I understand. You're not getting the treatment you deserve." He goes, "Exactly." And I said, "Well, how are you dealing with the situation?" He goes, "Well, it's going okay. I just wish I received more recognition outside of Australia. Well, the fans, they've been loyal and supportive. I just feel like I should be getting more out of it." And I said, "What do you mean by more out of it?" He says, "Well, more monetary support. Remember the TV show? The one in which never got to see the light of day? What about Ty Gudnip?" I said, "What?" And he says, "It was supposed to be a DS game, except it never got the right funding. It never came into existence. Now this new 2013 game, it's supposed to be a 2D side-scroller." And I said, "Well, that's how you were on the Game Boy Advance." He goes, "It is not a true Ty game." And I said, well, Crumb's not giving you the right treatment." He goes, "No, they're just giving a middle finger." He tried doing one himself, except four-finger deal. He says, "You know what I mean?" And I said, "Okay, I'm sorry. And he goes, "It's not your fault anyway. But still, I can't change the fact that they're still lazy and they still keep throwing me aside for other projects. I mean, the fans really respect me. They want to see another actual game. And this really throws my application in the toilet." And I said, "What application?" And he says, "The one I had for PlayStation All-Stars." I said, "Yeah, a lot of characters I've come across have talked about that. They really want in on that." He says, "So did I. Except now that's all impossible now with this new game." And I said, "Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. But is there anything else you can do? I mean, sure, there are other different games you can join." He goes, "Well, not really, I'm afraid. Seeing how the way things are going, I'm not sure how well I can hold up." And I said, "Well, I'm sure you can definitely do something." He says, "I bring it back to Ty Gunyip. Other than that, we have so many deleted characters. I mean, they're even forming their own faction. I am not joking. They are forming their own faction." And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Yes, they're called Deleted Characters Anonymous. CDA?" He goes, "Yes. They're led by somebody. I don't know who he is, but he's like some big crystally purple head." Then Goobu Steve came up from behind me. Apparently he was there too. And he puts his hand on my shoulder, and then his other hand on the table, goes, "Who's purple? If he was purple, how purple? No, maybe he's one of them. Maybe he's unpurple. I'm hungry." He walks away, and I said, "Why is he here?" And Ty says, "Wanted to come along for the ride. He's a typical harmless guy." And I said, "Well, okay, just make sure you keep an eye on him. Make sure he doesn't wander off." And he goes, Yeah, he has a tendency to do that." But back to what I was saying. I'm just really not fond of how things are going right now. I just wish things could work out for the better. And I said, "Well, I'm sorry. But hey, you're still a classic in my eyes." He says, "Thank you. But what else should I be doing here? I mean, I'm practically all out of thoughts on how this franchise should head." I said, "Well, how's everyone else going?" He says, "Well, things are okay with everyone else. I mean, Lily, Dennis's niece, had her own coming out party. And much to our surprise, Dennis had his own coming out party right after that. I mean, we all had our suspicions, but this was a really big shock." And I said, "Well, thank you for sharing." And he goes, Whatever. Sly's doing okay. Has his boomerang shop going. He's now working alongside Julius." And I said, "Oh yeah, how come Julius never appeared in Tie 3? He goes, "Multitude of problems. He strictly says don't tell." I said, "Oh, okay. Why, personal gain?" He goes, "Something like that." I said, okay. At that point, I really didn't want to know the answer. He says, how's Maury? He points to the bar over there. Maury was completely drunk off his tail feathers. I mean, he actually took his shirt off it, making him completely nude. I mean, for a character like that, that's still pretty shocking to see a cockatoo just take his shirt off. So he lands on the table that Ty and I are sitting at. Then he says, hey, mate, you know, look hard enough in Ty, too. You can come across an Easter egg all about Greg Ellis's baby. Ty slams his fist on the table like, Maury, that's supposed to be a secret. And he goes, nah, I didn't say it. Sam Adams did. Maury can be such a jerk when he's drunk. So after that, Ty and I continued our conversation. He finishes up by stating, I'm not sure how things are going with Shazza right now. She's pretty much a stay-at-home kind of girl. I said, really? Why isn't she a mechanic? I thought she was a mechanic. He goes, she suffered kind of a sickness after that, just from smoke consumption. I said, she was consuming smoke? And he goes, well, not a purpose, obviously, but she still had issues. And I said, well, okay then, as long as you're going to work things out. He goes, I will. Anything else? And he says, haven't you been listening to anything I've stated? I completely ignored by everyone else outside of Australia. And I said, I just kind of lift my arms in defense. I was like, okay, I'm sorry to bother you. And he says, you're not bothering me, but nobody even knows how much I want to come back into the world. I mean, people are creative. I mean, people in Australia, that's the main problem. I mean, have you seen that giant spinning birthday cake-shaped thing that forms an animation with all the action figures on it? He goes, I have. And he goes, well, no one else has. And I said, well, has the studio considered coming to America? He says, no. That's the other part of the problem. They can't get enough funding to get to America. If they really did, they would expand their fan base by at least double the amount. And I said, well, why don't you get that for a chance? I mean, the studio definitely wants to thrive. I mean, and not be lazy. And he goes, well, it is pretty lazy, and I am just unfortunate to be dragged along, whereas I'm just working some terrible job and not getting enough recognition that I deserve. And I said, well, I wish you the best of luck in this new game you're coming out. What's it called? It's a reboot of Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. He says, I'm not even sure when it's coming out, or if it even will. I'm just hoping that one day I'll get the same respect I deserve. And I said, just make sure you stick with the same formula that works. I know evolutions to next-gen console are difficult. He says, don't I know that? So after that, we have our dinner. He just walks away. And then I'm keeping up with the updates. He and I haven't talked since. He seemed pretty angered by our last meeting. Come across a lot of strange people in my travels. Go to a lot of unusual places. So I tend to see a lot of unusual things in my travels. And that's the truth of the matter.